He walked in to do the right thing, calm, respectful and unnoticed. But when officers laughed in his face and mocked his concern, they didn't realize they weren't humiliating a civilian. They were failing a test, because the man they dismissed wasn't just reporting the crime. He was investigating them. The door creaked open with a tired groan, letting in a gust of humid southern air. Elijah Cole stepped inside, slow and steady, his boots quiet against the scuffed linoleum. The precinct lobby was small, outdated, dimly lit with a vending machine humming in the corner, and the smell of burnt coffee hanging in the air like an old joke no one laughed at anymore. He didn't look like trouble. Faded jeans, a plain black t-shirt, a grey zip-up hoodie, and a calm expression that didn't ask for anything. Just another man with a reason to be there, or so it should have been. Behind the front desk, an officer with thinning hair and a crooked badge looked up with the kind of indifference that had been practiced for years. "Can I help you?" he asked, eyes already sliding away. "Yes, sir," Elijah replied smoothly. "I wanted to report something I saw. Could be trafficking." That got a flicker, not of concern, just amusement. "Trafficking," the officer echoed, leaning back in his chair. "You mean like drug trafficking?" Elijah shook his head. "Human. There's a warehouse off Old Ridge Road. Seen vans, people going in and out. No plates, late nights. 3 times this week." A second officer, stocky and younger, looked up from his phone. "What is this, CSI?" "Nowheresville," he said, chuckling. "Maybe they're filming a reality show and forgot to invite you." Laughter, not loud, but sharp, quick, like it wasn't the first time. Elijah didn't react, just stood there, hands in his pockets, voice steady. "I figured it was worth reporting. You never know." The first officer snorted. "You live around here?" Elijah offered a small nod. "Nearby." The younger one smirked. "Well, neighbor, sounds like you've been watching too much Netflix. Probably just a moving crew working late, or Amazon doing a spooky delivery." Another chuckle, another glance exchanged. No one wrote anything down. No one asked for details. "I appreciate your time," Elijah said quietly. He turned without being dismissed. As the door creaked shut behind him, their laughter followed, a low, careless noise that said they'd already forgotten him. Outside, the heat pressed down like a blanket. Elijah stood still on the sidewalk, reached into his pocket, and pulled out a phone with no contacts and no history. He lifted it to his ear, and spoke in a voice just above a whisper. "They didn't even blink," he said. "Phase 1's done." He paused. They laughed. Then he ended the call, slipped the phone back into his pocket, and walked away like nothing had happened. Because as far as they were concerned, nothing had. The street outside the precinct was empty, save for the soft hum of cicadas and the distant groan of a freight train sliding through the trees. Elijah walked calmly to the edge of the lot, paused by a rusted newspaper box, and glanced back once through the tinted glass doors. Their laughter still echoed in his ears, not angry, not loud, just careless. The kind that told you everything you needed to know. He took out the burner again, dialed a number from memory. 1 ring. "They failed," he said. "Didn't ask for ID, didn't log the complaint. Not even a file opened." From across the street, the black surveillance van remained still, parked half in shadow behind the faded sign for a closed-down diner. Inside, the air was cool, sterile. A half-drunk coffee cup sat on the console next to 2 glowing monitors. "Copy that," came a voice through Elijah's earpiece. Visual confirmed, audio clean, full footage logged. On the screens, the precinct lobby replayed in real time. One monitor showed Elijah calmly reporting the tip. The other captured the smirks, the eye rolls. The moment the second officer joked about Netflix, every word was time-stamped, every laugh clipped and archived. A woman leaned forward from the back of the van, sharp eyes, tightly braided hair. No nonsense. Agent Julia Hart. She tapped the spacebar, pausing the playback, right as the officer dismissed Elijah, with a lazy flick of the hand. "That's 3 precincts in 6 months, she said quietly. "Same profile, same pattern. Walk-ins dismissed if they don't look like the neighborhood." Elijah didn't respond. He was already watching the rear camera feed, tracking a patrol car slowly circling the block with its lights off. His jaw tightened just slightly. "They're not just lazy," he said. "They're selective." Hart nodded, pulling up the incident report interface. And this one's officially going in as what? False report, loitering, or nothing at all? Nothing, Elijah replied. No mention, just a joke. They treated it like a bad improv set. He stepped into the back of the van, letting the door click shut behind him. The lights dimmed. The mood shifted. They flagged themselves, he said. I didn't have to push, just walked in and watched it happen. Hart was already uploading the footage to a secure server, her fingers moving fast. We keep letting them write their own story, she said. They'll hand us the ending. Elijah leaned against the wall of the van, arms crossed, eyes distant. We're not there yet, he murmured. But now we know what chapter we're in. Outside, the precinct glowed soft and quiet under the parking lot lights. Just another small town station. But inside that building, the clock had started ticking. The warehouse sat like a skeleton on the edge of town. Corrugated metal rusted through, windows long shattered, weeds clawing up its sides. It had been dead for years. Tonight it came alive. 2 unmarked vans pulled up just after dusk. Federal agents, dressed in coveralls, moved fast and quiet. Crates, empty but weighted, were stacked by the dock. A black sedan parked beside them. Inside, Agent Nora Lynn placed a silver briefcase on top, snapped it shut, and walked off without looking back. A camera feed blinked to life from across the street. Another from the south alley. A third mounted inside the briefcase itself, watching the shadows stretch along the dock. In the surveillance van, Agent Hart leaned over her screen, headphones on, voice low. All assets placed, visuals hot, audio live. Elijah nodded once from the back corner, hoodie on, earpiece in, calm. Let's rattle the cage, he said. Hart tapped in the number. The line connected. She disguised her voice, gravely, urgent. Yeah, there's something going down by the old warehouse off Ridge. Vans, no plates, looked like a drop. She hung up before they could ask questions. On the monitors, inside the precinct, a desk officer scribbled something on a sticky note, slapped it on a monitor, and went back to scrolling his phone. 5 minutes passed. Nothing moved. No chatter on dispatch. No radio calls logged. Outside, the fake drop remained untouched. Silent. Waiting. Then Elijah gave the signal. Send the second tip. This time a different voice. Another burner phone. Same report. Same location. Only this time, more urgent. They've got weapons. People going in and out. Might be drugs. Inside the van, Hart's eyes flicked to the precinct feed. The desk officer shifted. Read the note. Picked up the phone. Dialed. 60 seconds later, across the monitors, something changed. The crate on the dock. The van beside it. All of it. Gone. The black sedan peeled out first. A second vehicle followed close behind. No sirens. No patrols. No response. Just disappearance. Quick. Quiet. Someone warned them, Hart muttered. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, pulling call records. There, Elijah said, pointing. Outgoing call, landline to private number. 2 minutes after the first tip, Hart traced it. Her screen lit up. Burner phone. Matches one flagged last month. Connected to our primary target. They sat in silence for a beat, the soft hum of equipment filling the van. They didn't ignore the tip, Elijah said finally. They redirected it. Hart exhaled through her nose. Leak's not accidental. It's embedded. Elijah looked out the tinted window toward the darkened precinct across town. Now we know which door it's leaking from. The precinct lobby looked the same flickering light overhead. Same coffee stain on the floor beneath the vending machine. Same slow buzz of indifference. Elijah stepped through the door just past noon. No hoodie this time. Button down. Jeans. Clean cut. Behind him, Agent Simone Graves followed closely. Eyes wide, lips pressed into a line. She wore worry like a second skin. They looked like siblings, tired, scared, out of place. Exactly what they needed to be. The officer at the desk was new, barely older than 25, hair gelled back and sleeves rolled too high. He didn't look up right away. The moment he did, the shift was immediate. Quick scan, subtle squint. Then the smirk. Can I help y'all? He asked. The drawl stretched longer than it needed to be. Elijah stepped forward. We're looking for our brother, he said quietly. We haven't heard from him in 3 days. Last text said he was meeting someone near the old warehouse off Ridge. The officer raised an eyebrow. That place again, Simone added. He said something didn't feel right. He never came home. From the back of the lobby, a familiar voice cut in. Langford. Same lazy lean against the wall, same smirk, curled behind his mustache. Let me guess. Your brother's not the kind of guy who'd be into anything illegal, right? Simone blinked, keeping her voice level. No sir, he works nights, loads trucks, keeps to himself. Langford chuckled, stepped forward. Well, you know how it is. That side of town's got a way of pulling people into messes they don't mean to be in. He didn't say what he meant. He didn't have to. Elijah kept his hands folded. We just want to file a report, just in case. The younger officer exchanged a glance with Langford. Another smirk, another quiet joke, only they could hear. Langford waved a hand toward the back. We'll make a note, he said, not moving. But don't expect a search party. No case without a crime, the younger one added. Simone's voice wavered, just slightly. Isn't going missing enough? Langford shrugged. People disappear every day. They turned to leave. No form filled out. No notes taken. Just another door closed. Outside, a dark sedan sat 2 blocks away. Tinted windows. DOJ observers inside. One of them leaned into his mic. Subject refused to file report. No documentation. No follow-up offered. Beside him, another agent reviewed the feed again. Elijah's calm. Simone's fear. Langford's smirk. Probable cause confirmed, he said flatly. Warrants green lit. Inside the precinct, the laughter started again. Muffled. Casual. Expected. But this time, it was the last time it would go unrecorded. The night air hung thick with summer heat, still clinging to the pavement, long after the sun had gone. Elijah stood under the glow of a flickering street lamp, just outside the precinct, hood up, hands in his pockets, his posture loose, unthreatening, invisible. He leaned against the bench near the flagpole like any man might, waiting for someone who was late. But he wasn't waiting. He was watching. Inside the surveillance van down the block, Agent Graves adjusted the zoom. Targets in position, she murmured. Camera fixed on the front entrance. 10 minutes passed. Then the glass door swung open. 2 officers stepped out. Langford, and another one, Elijah hadn't seen before. Young, square-jawed, with the swagger of someone too new to doubt himself. They spotted Elijah, almost immediately. Langford narrowed his eyes. You lost, pal. Elijah shook his head. Just waiting on someone. The younger officer stepped forward, puffed chest and suspicion already loaded. You've been standing here a while. Makes folks nervous. I'm on public property, Elijah said calmly. Langford circled behind him. Got ID? Didn't bring it, Elijah replied. That was enough. Without warning, the young officer grabbed his arm, twisting it back. Elijah winced but didn't resist. Langford was already pulling zip ties from his belt. You're loitering, he said flatly. That's probable cause. No rights. No paperwork. No reason. Inside the van, Graves leaned forward, jaw clenched. They're doing it, she said. No hesitation. Elijah was marched through the front door, past the empty reception, and into a back room with peeling paint and no cameras. The door slammed shut. The van's audio feed faded to static. Graves grabbed the comm. Team 3, hold position. Alert, DOJ. We have it. 37 minutes later, the precinct doors opened again. This time Agent Graves walked through them, flanked by 2 federal supervisors, and holding a folder thick with paperwork. The look on her face said everything. We need to speak with your commanding officer, she said, voice like cold steel. Langford stood behind the desk, eyes darting. What's this about? But before he could get the full sentence out, Elijah stepped out of the hallway behind them. Hands free, calm, his sleeves rolled up, faint red marks circling his wrists. He didn't say a word. He didn't need to. The next morning, the footage was compiled. High-res, time-stamped, backed up in triplicate. Zip ties. No Miranda, no charges, just humiliation under the glow of a government building's badge. Graves uploaded the file under one name. Trigger event. By noon, it was in the inbox of a DOJ deputy director, and by evening, the message was clear. No more tests. Now we move. The sky hadn't cracked open yet. Just a sliver of blue bleeding through the dark. The street was silent. Still, not even the birds had started. Then the first black Suburban rolled in, then the second, then 5 more. Doors opened in unison, boots hit pavement, agents in navy windbreakers moved with purpose, silent, fast, trained, no sirens, no shouting, just motion, a language of precision and authority. The front doors of the precinct were breached at 5:03 a.m. sharp. FBI, federal warrant, step aside. The officer behind the front desk froze, mid-sip of coffee. It splashed down his uniform as 2 agents brushed past him without a glance. Another pair moved toward the back offices. One peeled off toward the server room, holding a drive case. Another took the evidence locker key straight off the wall. In the hallway, a sergeant stumbled out of a room, belt half fastened, yelling, "What the hell is this?" No one answered him. He wasn't the point anymore. Desks were cleared, files pulled, phones tagged and sealed, body cams checked for tampering, hard drives unplugged. Every drawer, every cabinet, every side door, marked, bagged, logged. And then just as the last box was taped shut, the doors opened again. Elijah Cole walked in, no hoodie, no shrug, just a crisp FBI windbreaker, zipped halfway up over a collared shirt, badge clipped clearly on a lanyard, face unreadable. He moved through the room like it was his own. Sergeant Donnelly stood near the front, arms tense, sunglasses perched, still indoors. He turned at the sound of boots and stopped cold. Elijah didn't slow. He stepped right up to him, eyes locked. "You remember me now?" he asked, voice low. Donnelly's mouth opened then closed. Behind him Langford stood pale, a stack of warrants in his hand. One had his name at the top. Agent Graves arrived at Elijah's side, folder in hand. She offered it to Donnelly without ceremony. "Your department's been under investigation for 3 months, she said. Civil rights violations, obstruction, leaking federal surveillance." Donnelly flipped through the pages, color draining. His own words stared back at him, transcribed, recorded, catalogued. In the background, the rest of the precinct had gone still. Phones stopped ringing, mice stopped clicking, chairs didn't creak. Every officer was watching now, watching the man they had laughed at, walk in wearing the one thing they hadn't seen coming, authority. "This isn't about one mistake," Elijah said, his tone even. "This is about a pattern." He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. The badge spoke louder than anything else in the room, and this time they listened. The footage dropped at noon. No warning, no spin, just raw clips. Elijah being zip-tied without a word. Officers laughing. Eyes rolled, reports never filed. The silence after he was dragged into that back room. By sunset it was everywhere. Undercover detective profiled. Detained during federal sting. FBI raid uncovers. Systemic abuse in small-town precinct. Cable news ran the footage on loop. Social media lit up. Hashtags, outrage, disbelief. Activists demanded accountability. Former residents posted their own stories. Ignored calls, missing complaints, arrests that never made sense, until now. By the end of the week, 4 officers were suspended. 2 quietly resigned. 1 lawyered up before the second press cycle even started. The DOJ issued a statement, full federal oversight, historical audit of all precinct activity. Every case flagged for review, every ignored complaint under the microscope. For the first time in years, the walls weren't just closing in, they were coming down, and then came the microphones. A dozen of them, clustered in front of a plain podium outside the courthouse. No flashing lights, no grand entrance. Just Elijah Cole in his windbreaker again, collar turned up against the breeze. He didn't prepare notes. He didn't need any. "This wasn't about me," he began, voice low but steady. "It was about a system that decided who got to be believed, and who got laughed out the door." The cameras clicked. No interruptions. "I didn't walk into that precinct for revenge. I walked in because doing the right thing shouldn't depend on the color of your skin, or the badge in your wallet. It should depend on truth, on decency, on basic human respect." He paused. "And when those things break, we rebuild them." That was it. No dramatic exit. No applause. Just a few quiet nods from the crowd. Enough to know it landed. 3 nights later, the folding chairs in the Briar Ridge Community Center were packed. Teachers, elders, teens with folded arms, parents who'd stopped trusting the system long ago. Everyone came. Some with questions, some with anger, most with doubt. Agent Graves stood at the front now. Interim chief. No fanfare, just plain words. There will be oversight, transparency, new hires, new leadership, and every file opened for review. Not one voice goes unheard again. Not on my watch. It wasn't a promise to be perfect, just a promise to try. Near the back wall, Elijah sat with his hands folded in his lap. No badge on display. No spotlight, just listening. A kid near the aisle glanced back, then double-took. Recognition flickered, then faded. He nodded. Elijah nodded back. The meeting ended, but the room stayed full. Conversation sparked. Walls cracked. Outside, the air was cool, still. And inside, for the first time in a long time, change didn't feel like a speech. It felt like a beginning. They thought he was just another man filing a report. They laughed, ignored, mocked his concern. But what they didn't know, he was investigating them. And when the cuffs tightened, they weren't on him. The sting was real. The reckoning had names. And now, change has a face. If this story shook you, share it. Subscribe to Black Roots for more powerful stories of justice, truth, and transformation. Your voice matters. Your share can spark change.